Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any announcements today?
Not that I can think of. It's lovely to have so many of you here this afternoon, and looking forward to talking a little bit about Constitution Week.
All right, thank you. Today we have an invocation by Pastor Scott Savage with Cornerstone Church, and Councilman Good will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for placing the leadership of our community in these capable hands for such a time as this. We pray that you would give them wisdom to match the challenges they face. We pray that you give them the discernment to match the decisions they must make. We pray you give them the humility to match the authority they have been entrusted with. May they have honor and kindness as they interact with one another in a community to set a tone of mutual collaboration. And may they seek to be led just as much as they lead our community. Jesus, you told us that whoever wants to be great must be the servant of all, and may they seek to lead us as servants first and foremost. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in pledging allegiance to our great republic, especially as we watch the constitutional underpinnings of our great nation be challenged on almost a daily basis. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Savage. Let's please call roll.
Mayor Mingarelli.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Scholl.
Here.
Councilman Blair.
Yes.
Councilman Good.
Here.
Councilman Barusing.
Here.
Councilman Sishka.
Here.
And Councilman Tenney.
Yes.
All are present.
Very good. Thank you. Proclamations.
Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd.
Good. Good to see you. Hi, Sally. Good to see you. All right. It's my privilege to do the proclamation for Constitution Week, September 17 to 23, 2021. Whereas September 17th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Greg Mingarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week. And we have a proclamation for you. Thank you. Would any of you like to say a few words about the Constitution Week? Sally?
We're very proud and happy to be part of the General George Crook Club. There are different clubs, of course, now with the increase of our population, but we're very proud of to be part of and happy for our ancestors that made us free.
Can we get a little photo here?
It balances things out.
Ladies.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, September 2021.
Before I read this, I just have to say that I am a proud direct descendant of George Reed of Delaware, who signed both the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And so it's great to be here for Constitution Week and to celebrate our founding fathers. So we have a proclamation for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. Are you here to accept that? Come on up. September 2021. Whereas ovarian cancer is one of the most common forms of cancer among women and causes more deaths than any other type of female reproductive cancer. And whereas it is estimated that more than 21,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer this year, and more than 13,000 will die from the disease. And whereas Arizona has the 6th highest incidence and mortality rates of ovarian cancer in the American Southwest, with over 70% of its cases being diagnosed at late stage. And whereas there is no test or screening exam that can detect ovarian cancer in its early stages, and whereas on this day, we join the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition of Arizona to raise awareness of the disease and its impact on Arizonans. We encourage all residents to learn more about the subtle signs, symptoms, and current treatment options available to women to identify and overcome this disease. Therefore, Greg Mingarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, does proclaim September 2021 as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I would like to thank the Prescott City Council for acknowledging September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. I am 1 in 78 women that will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And on behalf of the the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition, I thank you for your time and increasing awareness. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Would any member like to pull anything from the consent agenda today?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull 7M for discussion concerning our potential grant for water and sewer infrastructure. And I would just, first of all, like to ask.
So if we could, just 7M? Is
7M.
that the only one? Okay. So any other member want to pull anything else? So I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A through 7O, excluding 7M.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Rusing, 7M.
Oh, I just think that this is something of interest because we've had a lot of discussion about getting off of our septics and getting areas in the county, especially hooked up into sewer. So I was just wondering if we could have a little discussion as to why these projects were selected, criteria, and I couldn't figure out where Juniper Vista area is.
Yep, no problem. Gwen Rowich with Public Works. As Councilman Rusing pointed out, this is a grant application to Yavapai County as part of their American Rescue Plan Act monies. They've set aside $10 million for water and sewer infrastructure projects that are located within Yavapai County. So when staff was looking at the various locations or projects that we could potentially put forth for these grant monies, the first criteria was that it had to be in the county. As you know, the city's water and sewer service areas extend beyond the city limits, so we do have some areas where potentially we could spend these monies on, especially on older infrastructure that needs replacement or upsizing. One of the projects, and you'll note in the staff report that there are 4 locations. The Juniper Vista area is actually located off of Senator Highway, and I think I have a map.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I may have a map in the folder. Don't see it in the folder. See if it's in there.
It's already open, Gwen.
Is it open?
Yep, you just need to, everything's open and minimized.
No.
7M, it should be images, unless previous staff closed them.
So I apologize, I don't see it. I see 9.
I got a question, Gwen, while you're looking.
Mm-hmm.
If I may, Mayor.
Yeah.
You know, you make the comment that we have some sewers and other things that are in the county. We are in the county. Are we drawing this distinction of being in the city opposed to being in the county? Because Prescott is Yavapai County. So wouldn't we even have some areas that are in the city that are on septics that could qualify for these grants as well?
So staff had many questions about this grant application. The actual application criteria itself came out at the end of August. So we've had a couple of discussions with county staff. One of the things that they noted was that the project had to be in the county. They implied that projects within the city limits, that we're a taxing authority here and we have the ability to generate revenues for projects within the city limits. However, they would acknowledge projects that we might want to do within Yavapai County area.
Okay.
Okay. So the map on the screen, this is the, this is the second one.
Beautiful map.
Pull the first one over. So this is the Juniper Vista area. This street right here. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm talking in the microphone. This street right here is Senator Highway. So this is Senator Highway right here. And then this is Banning Creek that you see here. And the reason that I've highlighted this area kind of in blue is to show you that this is the watershed that the Juniper Vista area drains into, which is Banning Creek, and then Banning Creek eventually discharges into Granite Creek, which then comes into the City Lakes and Streams system.
And that's Hidden Valley Ranch in the blue?
No, the blue indicates the watershed, not necessarily a subdivision area.
Hidden Valley Ranch, that area.
This is Juniper Vista. So this is Karen Drive and Juniper Drive. And this right here is Senator Highway. And as you head down this way, you head toward SR 69. So this project was selected as probably our number one project that we could potentially implement some grant monies toward. The city's currently designing or redesigning the water system. It's part of our capital 5-year plan to extend the water system down Senator Highway and to replace the water lines within this Juniper Vista area. Because that project is already underway, it makes it simpler for us to apply for monies to compensate for the design cost and possibly part of the construction cost as part of this grant money. One of the things about the grant application is there is only a 30-day window for us to submit an application. So staff was looking for projects that were potentially project ready to go. In other words, we've already assessed the initial cost, we've already assessed a timeline and schedule for construction. The timelines, once the grant is awarded, are very generous. We have up to 2 years to complete the design, up to 4 years to complete the construction, but the actual application process has a very, very short window. So we were looking for project ready or projects that we had enough information on that we could actually make a comprehensive application to the county. You'll note that the second project on the list is Juniper Vista Sewer. And the reason that we threw that in is because we know from the unsewered areas discussions that we do have some preliminary data for bringing sewer into this area. In the preliminary conversations for unsewered areas, this is known as Area 12, which is actually the most expensive area to sewer due to the off-site improvements that are needed to bring sewer into it. And it has the least amount of lots of any unsewered area that we've identified so far. So we did place that as a potential option. As I said, staff is currently working. We're still working out the details of what will be in the grant application or applications. We can apply for more than one project. That much we were able to confirm with the county. The second most likely project that we'll submit for is the Upper Rancho Vista Booster Station upgrade. Let me just switch pictures. So the city currently has a pump station that sits right about here. This is Copper Basin Road. This is Rancho Vista. There's a pump station right here. This entire area that you see in red is all in the county and is entirely served by this single pump station right here at Copper Basin and Rancho Vista Road. It's aged, and as well as having additional connections coming onto it over the years, it needs to be upsized. And we do have preliminary data and information in our 2018 water and wastewater models master plan that tell us that this facility needs to be upgraded, and it is scheduled in the 5-year CIP to be upgraded. So we have enough information to potentially make a grant application for this location as well. So there are 4 options on this list that we've brought to you to request to make a grant application, but it's likely that we'll only make 1 or 2 requests based on how quickly we can pull the information together and how likely it is that the county would award us more than one project.
Questions, comments? Councilman Good?
Yeah, I have a question, Gwen.
Oh, Craig says to let you know that one of the criteria is unincorporated Yavapai
areas,
County. Yeah. Yes.
Following some of the deliberations that the county supervisors had regarding this ARPA grant funding, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding that design had to be completed by December of 22, and the projects had to be completed by the end of 24.
That's correct.
So if we were able to receive these grants, then we're taking our own staff capacity to work on these projects. And of course, unless we go out to bid and have an outside contractor do it, so who would be doing the work?
These projects would likely be outsourced to outside consulting firms for the design. Neither one of these projects would be designed in-house. But
And
those
how about
costs
the
can be,
construction?
construction would be out of house as well.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns that the supervisors were considering, is that if the construction isn't completed by the end of the period of time, what is the potential penalty that the federal government could apply to that?
I don't know. That's a.
We'll have to look at the grant and see if it addresses it. I don't know.
I believe that that's one of the criteria that staff was looking at when we looked at projects, is whether we could complete them within the timeline. And we feel very confident that we could complete one or both of these projects within that time.
Well, that's the concern, is that there's so much federal money coming in for these projects that a lot of the contractors are going to be obligated to one or more of these contracts, and it would be difficult for them to have all of them completed within the time frame that's being granted to the entire county. It's not like these contractors are just sitting on their hands waiting for some federal funding to show up so they can go to work. They have other contract obligations, and all of a sudden a massive amount of money that comes in may be difficult to get the contractors to be able to complete these projects in a timely manner. And if so, if they don't get completed, what's the penalty?
Again, I don't know the penalty for a federal. Do you know, Matt?
Are we going to have to return the money?
A lot of times it's spelled out in the grant. But and I'm taking a quick look, but if you have a thought, go ahead.
Well, part of my thought is that that's direct reasoning on some of the projects that we chose. Juniper Vista, we're very near 100% plans. This pump station right here, these are projects that we're doing anyway. We're doing no matter what. So this is just an opportunity to have federal funding to help supplement us, so then we can preserve some of our existing funding then for other projects.
So consequently, if we can be at the front of the process, being able to have design almost completed, then the chances of us getting a competent and capable contractor to accept the bid and get the work done well in advance of the deadline, we shouldn't have any concerns about not meeting the deadline criteria.
Yes.
I would agree.
I don't know. I'm just one that always gets concerned when the federal government shows up and says, we're here to help. And then you find out that, there's some other things we didn't consider. And I think it's important to know what those consequences are before we move forward.
So if the city is awarded the grant, then we can bring that back to council for its consideration of accepting it. At this time, we're making application for the grant.
Very well. I'll be looking forward to that. Thank you.
Councilman Rusing.
Thank you. Oh, I just had a question about the Hokagan sewer main installation. That borders Stringfield Ranch. Are we going to be able to tie that in with the Stringfield Ranch sewer main?
You should probably answer that.
The consideration for the sewer to take care of the Stringfield Ranch subdivision, contemplating taking sewer easterly on Pioneer Parkway and not down into the Hokagon area, because that ultimately then can create it would bring the flow into another area of the system then that could create additional requirements downstream. So it was not going to go down into the Hokagon area.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from council? Thank you, Glenn. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda item M.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 8A, please.
Public hearing and consideration for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license application from Karina Dawn Becker, applicant for Lucy D's Barbecue, location 669 East Sheldon Street. The application fees have been paid and the signs have been posted for the required 20 days. Staff has reviewed the applications and determined that they're in compliance and no public comments have been received.
And is the applicant here?
I don't see her.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Steve.
move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Go ahead.
No.
I'm sharing.
Come on.
Sure,
Come
okay.
on, come on.
Oh, aren't you nice? Mayor, I move to approve recommendation for liquor license number 156176 for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Lucy D's Barbecue, location 669 East Sheldon Street. Hopefully you'll all go.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Let's move on to item 9A, please.
Approval of City Contract Number 2021-161A1, an amendment to City Contract Number 2021-161 with Traffic Safety, Inc. for markings at Prescott Regional Airport.
And I'm going to recuse at this point. My son works for TSI.
Good afternoon. Goodbye, Mayor, and good afternoon, members of council. So I'm in front of you today because we are an FAR Part 139 certificated airport, and we have very stringent requirements for doing specific markings on the airfield. And during the most recent airfield inspection by the FAA, they noticed that our airfield markings were degraded, in part because of all the storm activity that we had, and a lot of that we had talked to you about before. They've given us until October 31st to go ahead and complete the markings, and they're very specific: thickness of paint, the type of reflective beads, the type of application, even the color of the paint and everything. So as a result, we saw that it was most advantageous to go with an amendment to a city contract that already exists. And that is with TSI with their quote of roughly $33,000. We did get a second quote just to make sure we were in the right ballpark, even though this was an amendment. And the second quote was $47,000. So we felt that this was a good move. We don't have anybody else who can actually bid on this and get it done by October 31st. So we do have this deadline, and it is important for the safety of the pilots and the users and the traveling public for us to do this in an expeditious way. So there is money in the airport budget.
Any questions? Member Rusing?
Thank you. I would just like to ask Robin if it would be advantageous to maybe have a program where we stripe on a regular basis at the airport, kind of a routine maintenance, or do we have to wait till things are so bad that the FAA tells us to do it?
Yeah, actually, I think it's really important for us to do that. And we've been in discussions. There are several striping providers that go around the country and do the entire state of Montana or the entire state of Nebraska or something. And we've been in contact with them, not only about doing painting, but also they would come in and do what we call rubber removal because there's rubber buildup on our grooved runways. So they do those type of marking and other services, some sealing. So yes, we've actually decided we're going to do that from here on out. By next year, we will have services provided in mass along with the other airports.
So they are specific to airport work.
Exactly. We want somebody who's a specialist in this area because the FAA specifications are very, very deliberate, and you can't find somebody who just has that type of paint or that type of expertise.
Okay.
Just for example, we just did some seeding recently, and we thought it was going to be grass, and it turned out to be sunflowers in the infield. Kind of interesting. So yeah, we have to watch all of those standards. It'll be a beautiful infield for 1 year. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from council? Any public comments, Sarah?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd accept a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve City Contract 2021-161A1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Robin. Item 9B, please.
Approval of sponsorship contribution for Arizona's Christmas City campaign for fiscal year 22 in the amount of $160,000.
Hi, Ann.
Hello. Do we need to wait for Mayor?
Yep, we're getting him.
Perfect. Okay. There he is.
He's out there eating.
I don't blame you.
Bring it up for everyone.
You didn't come bearing gifts?
Yeah. All right. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and Stewart Tourism and Economic Development. As you know, the item before you right now came to you on the August 10th City Council study session for review and background, and today the item is here for approval. And it is for a one-time sponsorship contribution for Arizona Christmas City fiscal year 2022 campaign for events and activities in the amount of $160,000. The funds will come from bed tax, and just like to remind everyone that bed tax refers to a fee collected by a municipality for each night a visitor rents a room, like hotel, motel, or other temporary lodging place. This contribution is being requested due to decline in business revenues from the COVID-19 pandemic. And also just want to mention that, historically the Christmas City season generates significant return in bed and transaction privilege taxes. And again, the item is here for approval. There is a representative here from Arizona Christmas City if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ann. There was a good study session on this, so that was really helpful previously. Questions, comments from the council? Councilman Good?
Thank you, Mayor. Reflecting on the study session that we had here, the primary reason for bringing this forward was being able to have a one-time allocation to be able to award contracts for these various activities and the vendors involved, where in the past you'd have to fundraise, or the groups were fundraising, hoping that they would achieve their goals and have to commit to a contract for vendors without actually having the money in the bank.
Yes.
So the intention here is to be able to do a kind of a front-load funding process where the groups will continue to do their marketing and fundraising so that they'll be able to make those commitments to the vendors with the money in the bank. And then this won't be an ongoing subsidy.
Correct. Yeah. And it's a great question, Councilman Good. First of all, it used to be that each of the individual Christmas City events would go out for their own funds. They've come together this year to raise the funds together. Also, due to the loss from the COVID-19 pandemic to the businesses and the revenues, this is giving them that those funds to be able to get going for this year and to be able to, exactly like you said, have some funds moving forward next year.
Well, I just want to be very clear that I support almost every one of these events. And I'd like to see that the community has a real interest in being involved in making sure that these events are supported, have been supported, and will continue to be supported. I'm only concerned that if they have a perception that the government, the city government, is taking over funding, then they lose their connection with being personally involved here. So I want to make sure that the community understands that for those people who want to be contributing to the courthouse lighting and all the fundraising activities at Jersey Lilies and the other places, that will be continuing to be to occur.
Absolutely.
For those people that really love the Acronite and the music, they can do that too, and not necessarily think that they're funding some of the other events that they may or may not want to support. So I think the communication on that needs to be very clear.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And I know that the Christmas City organizers, the events are still their own events. And I would definitely note that. I know that they're here and are listening. And, I think one of the good things about these items is, a lot of people in the community may not have known in the past that all these events were put on by different organizations. They were funded separately. They need to continue to have that support from the community. That's why we're Arizona's Christmas City, and they will look to the community as they move forward for this support.
Very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Russing.
Thank you. I agree with Councilman Good. I think it's important that we stress that we are partnering with the downtown, that we're not going to take over the fundraising, but it's important that we support them financially because of all the benefits that we receive from these activities. And it's important that we keep our downtown vibrant, especially over the holidays, and keep supporting these activities, especially financially.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the council? Public comment? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve sponsorship contribution from the city for Arizona's Christmas City campaign for financial year 22 in the amount of $160,000.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item C, please.
Approval of city contract number 2022-028 with Prescott Chamber of Commerce Visitor Information Center for the Prescott Tourism Partnership.
Yes, me again. Ann Stewart, Tourism and Economic Development. So the item today is this one is seeking approval for support for the Prescott Chamber of Commerce Visitor Information Center. And the investment is for $25,000 annually. And the sponsorship assists to keep the visitor center open and continues to enhance the visitor experience with appropriate resources and space for such a use. The agreement originally came before council in 2018, and it is up for renewal. We did provide some information reports in your packets, but I do want to take this opportunity to mention a few key functions and highlights, especially with COVID that we just went through and are still kind of going through. Both Sherry Heine, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and Robert Coombs, the Visitor Center Information Manager, who I'd like to note who's been there for 18 years, and they're here should any questions arise. So I just want to provide some background because it has been 3 years, and I think it's important to mention some of these things. So destinations can only have one designated visitor information center. Depending on the size of the city, they might have more than one, but it can only be designated to one entity. So basically, all the designated centers, they go through a really strict application process through the state tourism office. They have to meet certain criteria and requirements. And in our case, our Visitor Information Center, which, as everyone knows, is on the corner of Montezuma and Goodwin, it is located and run by the Prescott Chamber of Commerce. And of course, it's great for us because it's downtown. What do they do? Of course, they welcome visitors coming to town. One of the big things they do is send relocation packets. Robert sends 2 weekly emails to all hospitality and tourism stakeholders. The beginning of the week, the email, and both emails include events for the weekend and what's happening around town. So the beginning of the week is a look ahead. The email on Friday is just kind of a reminder to all of these partners of what's coming up, what's here. So not only is it promotion of these events and what's happening in Prescott, but it also helps all of the hospitality and tourism stakeholders and other businesses prepare for staffing the week ahead and the weekend. They assist our office with fam tours and media visits. They also promote nearby destinations. So one of the requirements from the state office is to promote other nearby destinations. This enhances, again, the long-term visit within our state. They help manage our visitor guide brochure fulfillment. They provide the free historical walking tours. And then they are open 7 days a week. During COVID, they were closed, but because they have that outside rack, they were still able to provide services. And Robert reported refilling that rack with up to 400 items weekly. But in this case, it was really amazing because this was our locals that were accessing this information and using this rack. And then, of course, with the new terminal opening, it's been a team effort between the visitor center information staff and our staff to keep the airport stocked with welcome material, visitor information, and we will be doing this until our visitor center kiosk goes in. And that information goes quick out there. And then lastly, just to mention a couple things that they've done in the last 3 years. They've renovated and expanded the center. They've increased convention services, and I believe they brought a bag that Sarah passed out just to give you an example of the material that we provide when groups and seminars and conventions come to town. And they did add some facilities, one being a water bottle fill station. So again, this is for $25,000 annually for the next 3 years. It will come from bed tax. As I just mentioned, bed tax refers to a fee collected by visitors staying in a temporary lodging place and items for approval. And they are here if you should have questions.
Thank you, Ann. Questions, comments from the council? Any public comment? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2022-028.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Thanks, Ann. Let's move on to item 9D, please.
Approval of city contract number 2022-014 with Waterworks Engineers for design and engineering services for the Avapai Hills No. 1 lift station rehabilitation project.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Eric Bay with Public Works. This next item for you is for design and engineering services for the Yavapai Hills No. 1 lift station rehabilitation project. And I have a map of where this lift station is located. There you go. So this site is at the bottom of the Yavapai Hills subdivision, right next to the SR 69 corridor. And of the 62 lift stations that we own and operate, this is one of our more critical sites. And wastewater operations, we do continuous evaluation of our lift station sites with respect to age, condition, location, historic failures, criticality, serviceability, safety, and more. And this lift station site right now has some challenges with several of these categories, which is why it was budgeted for this upcoming rehabilitation project. So the rehabilitation will include a new corrosion-proof wet well, new pumps, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment control, the rehabilitation of a building that is on site that we can salvage, the removal of some very old wastewater treatment plant, because this site used to be a wastewater treatment plant, equipment and basins that have been a safety concern to operations for a while. So it's a very comprehensive project. City staff direct selected Waterworks engineers for the design, utilizing their qualifications on file from the most recent on-call professional services solicitation. Also, Waterworks Engineers has some recent success with a couple lift station designs of this magnitude, so they're comfortable with our code standards and preferences. City staff has negotiated scope and fee, and we're recommending award it this time. With that, I'll answer any questions about this project.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Questions, comments from the council? Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I have a question about solar. Would it be possible to ask the design team to look at the possibility of including some solar panels at this site? Because according to my research, there's many lift stations in other parts of the country and world that are powered by solar.
We can certainly ask them to evaluate that. I can tell you that this site does require quite a bit of energy consumption, as the wastewater has quite a bit of elevation to overcome to get back into the gravity system. So it may not be possible, but we can ask them to evaluate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Public comment? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2022-014.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Eric. Let's move on to item E, please.
Approval of city contract number 2022-015 with American Fence Company to furnish and install fencing.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Craig Dotseth, Public Works. All kinds of stuff open. So this item I bring before you today, the short summary or topic on it is to approve a contract with American Fence Company for the construction of new site fence at the airport water reclamation facility. New site fence would allow unrestricted public pedestrian access to the recharge basins at the water reclamation facility for birding and other recreation activities. So that's the short item of it. This item is going to be a little different. Normally we bring a construction project or a design project to you and we're recommending award on it. This project is coming forward as an opportunity for consideration. So we're going to give you, between Joe Baines, Rec Services, and myself, going to give you information associated with this concept and then allow you to have questions and or consideration of it. So this picture right here is our existing airport water reclamation facility. This is the treatment works down here on the far east side. And then we have all of the basins that are part of the recharge system. So currently there are a limited number of birders that do visit this site because we have water available in the basements, in the basins. There are birds there on a regular basis. So when the concept came up to expand it, Public Works, Rec Services, City Manager's Office, as well as members of the Prescott Audubon Society got together and started to discuss this site. So birding is a common term for bird watching. The city's recharge basins have limited use, as I mentioned there today. The use has limited, or is limited, to the hours that we're open. So currently, when our staff is staffing the water reclamation facility and or the recharge facility, then the gate is open at the front. So that actually has created some liability challenges. The main gate is a manual gate, so it's open then to allow for deliveries and such during the day, as well as staff to come and go. And we have had occasions where people will just drive on in and wander in. For the most part, the birders have been respectful and they stay around the basins. But every once in a while, we do get somebody that, the guys will come out of one of the facilities at the plant and find someone wandering through. So then we have to ask them to leave because of the inherent dangers associated with the treatment facility. With consideration with the fence, then open access would be able to be considered for it, because it will create the separation then between the treatment works and the basins. So with the idea, then comes increased availability as far as a quality of life scenario associated with birding at the facility. With increased usage can be the potential then as far as additional tourists coming to town for that activity. one thing that I didn't do the best job in the memo was associated with the facility and recharge. So this is the recharge facility. So this is where all of our water goes back as far as getting back to the aquifer. We have talked about it for a number of years as far as expanding outreach in regards to our water portfolio, in regards to recharge, what the city does, how much the city does associated with that recharge, where the water comes from and such. And it can be twofold in regards to that we can have a very expanded educational opportunity associated with this facility as well. There can be a full path of information in regards to what is recharge, what waters do we send there, how much do we annually provide, how much has the city recharged, over time of the age of the facility, and expand and bring that recharge concept into it as well. So there are other facilities that do this exact thing within the state and relatively close. So here's some of our facilities. So this is a view from one of the ponds down over the water reclamation facility. And then we have berms like this that go around the basins. These are some of the birds, the wildlife that are out there on a regular basis. And as far as the access in that, it has been primarily by appointment. They contact our staff, and then that way staff knows that someone is on the site. Another one in the area, Kachina Village, up in the Flagstaff area. So Flagstaff has taken it to another level where they have specific trails and activities and that associated with their wetlands that they've created with it. So they have expanded it to even more than the birding concept. Sedona Wetlands as well. They have the water reclamation facility, and then they have the wetlands next to it. And then Sedona actually, for their recharge, they irrigate the waters onto the national forest lands around the wetland area for that recharge. Gilbert Water Ranch, they have taken it to a very lengthy degree. They have a major facility there. It is a major park and activity center and attraction for Gilbert. So they've brought many things into play with the wetlands as well as the birding aspect of it. And then signage. So these are all examples that the Audubon Society group brought to us as far as at these different facilities. And then, as I mentioned, on the recharge side, we can bring an entire realm of additional information in on the water portfolio side with the recharge.
So as looking at this, is this about fun and fuzzy, or is this about public safety and putting the fence up?
It's a combination of both.
What are we voting on today?
The memo is to consider awarding a contract to build the security fencing within the facility. And let me open. So to that question.
Craig, the idea is to open up the recharge basins for public access while protecting the sewer plant from public access, right?
Correct.
It's fencing out the recharge basins and fencing in the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
So, in a lot of ways, I think this is taking advantage of a resource I didn't even realize we had in terms of recreational or ecotourism. And I think that we don't do a good job on explaining the recharge system and the flow of water and what that facility does in terms of putting water back in the aquifer. So I think there's an educational element with that too. Maybe more importantly than the birding.
If I could just add something, I think the expenditure that's in front of you today for your consideration will allow us to utilize an existing city facility, protect those operations from any intrusion, but at the same time allow for outdoor education and recreation. And I think the educational part of how we recharge our water is a message we can't get out enough. So this creates that opportunity again for us too. So that's kind of the perspective that I see it from. We're protecting the essential asset that we have to provide that service, but at the same time we're multi-use. We're providing a multiple use for a property that we have.
Did you have something else, Craig?
Yeah, to continue to Councilman Blair's question. Yes, so the consideration of the contract or the quote from American Fence Company would include a solar-powered power gate at the main entrance, back at the far left side of this view or of the basins. So there'd be a gate there. And then once we're on the site, so then we connect to an existing fence on the south side, go up. We have a maintenance gate here, fencing, another solar-powered power gate, another maintenance gate, and then tie back into fencing there. So then that would create the situation at the main entrance that gate would be closed so that we don't get any vehicular access into the basins to have an accident associated with those. There would be the potential of a parking area on the outside of that fence with pedestrian access. And then the power gate creates a situation where the UPS guy, the chlorine guy, things like that, when they're coming and doing their deliveries, they will be able to get access, but yet the gate will be closed at the main entrance to the entire property. And then down here at the reclamation facility site itself, we have a second one there in order to not reduce, or cause additional labor time and that for staff as they come and go doing their daily jobs. Thereby opening and closing gates manually. So that's what we're contemplating with the contract with American Fences is that amount of work.
Very good. Well, thank you guys. Let's go to questions, comments from the council. Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I'd just like to stress that the quality of water in this marshy area, isn't it like A+? It's the highest quality of water that you can have after being treated?
We have 3 waters being delivered there currently. We have A+ from the airport water reclamation facility, B+ from the Sundog wastewater treatment plant, and raw surface water from Willow and Watson Lakes when we release it from them. So there's a combination. Once the centralization project is complete, yes, then all of the treated wastewater will be the A+. The B+ category requires limited access. You can't have open access around that water. So then by having this as an educational facility, that's part of that education part is what is the water? What's the treatment, everything like that. So it would meet those requirements and not have any ramifications associated with ADQ and that.
Well, I just like to compare this project to our Granite Creek Corridor Rehabilitation Project. I mean, we took that area, that Granite Creek area running through downtown. It was blighted, crime-ridden, and we are turning it into a wonderful attraction with many benefits. And this is another case of a multi-purpose use for an underutilized site of these recharge basins, and I just am very excited about it. I'm wondering, is it still going to be as on an appointment or reservation basis like it currently is?
No, we're considering with these safety improvements that then it would be able to be open access.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Tenney.
So, real quick question for Joe. Tell us a little bit more about the potential recreational opportunities we've talked about here. Some of us might have in our mind, there's like 6 people who like to watch birds might show up here, or is there more to it than that? And there's also, if I understand correctly, maybe some discussion about how this might hook up to the Peavine Trail and some pieces like that. So maybe elaborate just a little for us about the recreational potential.
Good question, Councilman Tenney. Yes, so in the future, not proposed in this right now, but in the future there could be a small ramada there. But I think, the Peavine Trail is our most popular trail, and it's the most popular for a number of reasons. But I think primarily it's because it's flat and it's walkable for all ages. I think that's really what draws the majority of the people there. These, by their nature, the berms around the ponds are flat. So really, it's more, I think there's some picnicking opportunities. I think that there's bird watching opportunities. I think that there's exercise opportunities. So it's really not just a one-shot birding opportunity. There's other aspects to it.
Sure, I appreciate that. I'll tell you from having visited similar facilities in other areas, that it really is a potential resource that we've not tapped here in Prescott. The one in Gilbert, I've literally been down and people are getting married there. And so on the one hand, you might think, wait a minute, we're looking at putting money in so people can visit our wastewater treatment plant? What? But this really is a potentially untapped resource in terms of recreation. There are birds that come there. There's rare bird alerts that go out to people throughout the state and even in the region of the United States, and people will drive to Prescott to see whatever it happens to be. And because of the nature of these, they're kind of like a mud flat, and they attract a type of bird that you don't often get in other places in the entire area. So right now already there's the potential to draw thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of real low impact kind of ecotourism to Prescott, but this would really enhance that, it sounds like to me.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thanks, Mayor. I also think this just makes a lot of sense time-wise. I mean, we're seeing a lot of growth in and around the airport, and also with the Arizona Eco Project. There's just going to be more people out there, and so it makes sense to kind of secure this property now before it really does become problematic. So I think there's a lot of benefits on multiple fronts that makes this project kind of make a lot of sense when I don't think it was on our radar.
Very good. The Honorable Councilman Steve Blair.
Well, unlike the rest of you, I think it's a horrible idea. We purchased Watson Willow Lake for recreation, for birding, and for all these things. We haven't even touched the iceberg of what we can do out there. As Joe, you took us out there, showed us the dam on the water that we can do, and more ramadas and all the updates and all the things. I can't imagine the city of Prescott seriously putting in a brochure, come to our wastewater treatment plant so you can watch birds. It's kind of like me thinking that we're going to give the rodeo grounds bed tax money and use them for restrooms. How do you advertise that? This is a security issue. We have wackos all over the world that could just walk up to one of those tailing ponds and throw any kind of chemical they want, and it ends up into our aquifer. How does a city justify that activity when we already have nice lakes just less than 2 miles away from there that are I can't say it right, but there's birds out there all the time. There's geese, and when CVID owned that property, they drain those lakes every single year. We didn't have a bird population. Well, if it's that exciting that the birds are out there now, where are the signs I just saw there? Where are they in our lakes? Where are they on our trails? Where are they on something that we're trying to make a regional park, but yet we're going to turn our focus today on a wastewater treatment plant where now we have to put in signage on the road to try to tell them how to get there? We're going to have to put in new employees out there. We're going to have to put benches out there, ramadas out there. If that's a part of the overall park plan, then let's take it to the Parks Committee and let's talk about it. I don't mind spending the money on a fence, but we have a place we can watch birds. We have 3 or 4 or 5 places. Sedona does not. So maybe what fits Sedona's model doesn't fit our model. And I'm absolutely opposed to that being wide open to the public, where somebody can go through Clorox, chemicals, harsh chemicals, anything they want in those tailing ponds and be totally unmonitored. That's wrong. Sorry, I'm a downer on everybody, but we have Watson and Willow Lake, for crying out loud, and we're trying to make it a regional park. And we're trying to make it attractive. But to make a sewer plant attractive, go figure.
Councilman Sischka.
Thanks, Mayor. Was the nexus of this security, or was it for bird watching?
the security would allow for the other recreational opportunities, but security of the facility is the most important.
Okay, so the fence is a security issue, and the birding is a secondary issue.
A secondary opportunity, maybe, I might say. Yeah.
So I agree with Councilman Blair that we have a lot more, I think, birding opportunities here than they have over in Sedona. But if it's a security issue, then I think it needs to be taken care of. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Is it a security issue first?
What are we trying to secure? That's what you have to answer.
Yeah.
Are the ponds what we need to secure because we're still putting the things that you're talking about, B-class sewage, and somebody else dumping something else in there? Or throwing, let's just say I have an empty or a bunch of pills that are blood pressure medication, and then you got weirdos running around all over the place, and I want to just take and get rid of it, and I can throw it out there. You know, we're supposed to be using this water as class recharge water to our aquifer. I can't imagine us just leaving it open to anybody that wants to walk out there and do anything on it. I'm sorry, I just can't see it.
Councilman Shiska, to your question, yes, there is a security issue, but there would only be a portion of this fence quote that can solve that, and that would be a power gate at the primary access at this end. Can't see that right straight up from that red arrow. If we had a power gate at that entrance, then it would close the facility off all the time and not be open as it is today. So that would address the current security issue, and then that would just close off the facility entirely from any access other than people that are going to the facility.
Okay. So how much of a problem do you foresee? You know, certainly Councilman Blair has issues.
Only for 2 more months.
Yeah.
And then you can build one on top of a skyscraper. I don't care.
Well, I think the argument could be made if somebody's going to vandalize the system, they could do it at Watson Lake, or they could do it in Granite Creek, or some source maybe not as close to the treatment, but it could be done somewhere else.
Okay, so are you confident in the plan that you've got that this will, allow recreation purposes and security?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Tenney?
So I appreciate Steve a lot, and I see where he's coming from. I think his thoughts are short-sighted. It sounds like, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Most every other municipality with a wastewater treatment plant does this. It attracts birds. It attracts people with real light on the land, ecotourism. It brings dollars in. It improves quality of life. Saying we've already got places to bird is like saying there's already a park in Phoenix. We don't need another park. Or there's already a park in Prescott. We don't need another. Of course we need another park. The more that we have, the better off that we are. By the way, Sedona has terrific birding areas outside of their wastewater treatment plant. There's a couple of state parks there that people go to regularly, etc. But there's an entirely different kind of bird that comes here, and the more areas that there are that are open to people to be able to do this safely and well, the better off it is for quality of life and for drawing people to town for something that, again, is a real light touch on the land and brings dollars to our area. So I think to forego this opportunity would be short-sighted.
Councilman Good?
Well, I can't, I really can't understand the justification for this request. We've got weak reasons in a couple of different areas. $119,000 is a lot of taxpayer dollars, and it better damn well be justified, not just saying, well, we got some birders that want to come out and watch some birds, or somebody might want to have a picnic there. If we have serious security issues, then it should be designed to solve those security issues. Clearly, that wasn't the justification to bring this forward. So I think we've got these scattered justifications for a very large expenditure, and I think it ought to go back for a further study. And if it's a legitimate security issue, it should be designed that way, and it's probably going to be a different amount with a different design. And as far as trying to make sure that the birders can watch these mud ducks, that's something entirely different. And I don't think maybe you should put a donation box up there. All the birders can put in $20, and when we get $115,000, we'll put up a fence. But until then, I can't. I'm scratching my head here. So I'm not about to support a taxpayer expenditure of this size without any legitimate justification.
Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I look at this as an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. If you go on the Arizona Game and Fish website, you will find out that wildlife viewing is a $1.4 billion industry here in our state. And I don't think it's unusual to have the birder community involved in this project. And there's no doubt in my mind that a perimeter fence would also take care of any security issues that we have in the airport considering this site. So I support it 100%, and I would like to thank city staff for bringing this project to our attention.
Councilman Blair?
Real short, and I appreciate your thinking outside the box. I look at this as two different issues. We have a security fence that's needed to protect the facility. We have a different brain thought of a Parks and Recreation adventure that should go back to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and some real thought put into what we're going to do out there. Not just a balloon that somebody just popped from the Audubon Society saying, hey, we got 12 people that use this. Let's make it a new special ecotourism site. It hasn't been vetted through anybody. That's why we have the Parks and Recreation Board. I'm going to support this, but it's for the fencing I'm supporting and the security. And I think it needs to go back and be reevaluated. Number one, how many employees is it going to take to manage it? I've already heard we're going to have it ADA accessible. We'll have to have trash cans. We'll have to have park benches. Who's going to maintain the trails? Who's going to maintain the benches? We haven't thought through any of that. So once that's done, I would say, sure, let's think about that. But as far as security for the plant, I'll support this 100%. But I don't support something that seems to be, no disrespect, a half-baked plan. I've been waiting for Lower Goldwater Lake for 20 friggin' years, and we're still not there. But yet we want to turn this overnight into a bird watching area.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Craig, whose idea was this? Was this something that your department kind of realized there was a need for? Were you approached by someone from the Audubon Society? Tell me about that.
We had Audubon Society director came and met with us, at least me 2 or 3 times, and you guys how many times?
Several.
But
we've been approached for years. We've had people in with limited access out there for 10 or 15 years that I can remember.
And just ballpark for me, Craig, how many people do you think participate now with limited access?
I'd be speaking out of turn if I gave you a number.
Okay.
Could we ask some of...
Can we put duck blinds out there?
I knew that question was coming.
If you put duck blinds out there, maybe I'll support it.
Okay.
Could we ask one of the ladies?
Yeah, I think it'd be great for one of the representatives from the Audubon Society to come forward.
Hello to all of you on the council and the mayor. To answer that question about who's using it now, there was open access a number of years ago, and then there were improvements at the plant. I would say 6 or 7 years ago, we were asked not to be there because of construction equipment, and so we didn't go in for a few years. After that, we went through the legal department in the city, and we got very limited access allowed. We had to fill out liability forms. We had to call 48 hours ahead and request permission. Occasionally, I think both Prescott Audubon and Jay's Bird Barn would bring tour groups in there with permission. But in general, those restrictions kept the number of birders down. We were told not to communicate our findings there. So we never use the social media tools that we have that would bring that kind of recreation into the city because of this facility. So we've never reported it to the birding community, and so nobody uses it. If we turn on that marketing tool, which is commonly used for access all over the nation, it's why people who are interested in that kind of dispersed recreation come to Arizona. They check to see what facilities they can access. They check those online tools that we have been restricted from using because of the regulations from the city. So there's really no way to measure what will happen because we've had our hands tied as far as communication. I do know that on Willow, for example, when the swans show up and we do post using the system, the next day I have people from Tucson to talk to that are coming by the lake. So the systems do work, and I personally do a lot of international travel for bird watching, and whenever I'm going somewhere, I check who has a wastewater treatment facility I can go to. Is it Henderson, Nevada? Is it Tucson? Sweetwater wetland? It's one of the first places I check. And sometimes even dumps because the gulls are there in the winter. So I'm not saying us birders have normal tastes, but I also just, if I can continue, this facility is potentially a natural area park for that light industrial group that's right next to that facility. They have no place to go for lunch walks. They have no place to relax, no benches to sit on. It also is connected to the Peavine Trail story. I see it as a park for the northern expansion. I don't really see it as just for birders. And I understand there have already been, during this COVID year, a lot of access problems that weren't from birders, but from other people just coming in. And who knows what they do. But I've talked to people who work those ponds, and they've had to manage those conflicts. So, is that enough?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. We'll take a little bit more comment here. I think we're overthinking this. We're increasing security at our wastewater treatment plant. We're increasing ecotourism dollars. We're, I think, very importantly, showing people how we recharge water, which is extremely important around here. And then we have potential in the future for tying into trail systems out there already. So I realize it's kind of a foreign idea. It's a foreign idea to me today, but I can see the potential. So I don't think I'd have a wedding at the wastewater treatment plant, but, you know, to each his own. Councilman Tenney?
Just really quickly, as far as the numbers, I think Sue's exactly right. There's no real good way to say how many people would utilize this if it were open, but we could look to, I think the closest neighboring wastewater treatment plant in a lower density municipality, and it's Sedona. It's fair to say there's thousands of people, in the low thousands of people who show up there monthly. So we could be looking at something like that. There's 13 million birders in the United States, so it's foreign to some of us up here, but not to those 13 million people that we're laughing at.
Understood. Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2022-015.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-1.
Very good. Let's move on to item F, please.
Approval of city contract number 2022-055 with Kimley Horn and Associates for the design of Hazley Road reconstruction project.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. Craig Dotseth, Public Works. So this item is to approve city contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for the design of Hazley Road reconstruction project in the amount of $257,267. Location is no longer at the treatment plant. So location is as we have it here on the exhibit. So The project will pick up where the last project left off on Hazley Road and Valley Ranch Circle, continue westerly all the way to SR 89A, going south out of town. So the road was originally constructed in the mid-70s as part of the Hazley and Hidden Valley Ranch subdivisions. The roadway has had minimal pavement maintenance performed over its life, is now in very poor condition. Pavement exhibits distress cracking, traverse cracking, and areas of failing subgrade, need of full reconstruction. So, in addition to the paving, the project will address some drainage issues, including the addition of sidewalks for pedestrians and a bike lane. So, in regards to that concept, the existing pavement through a good portion of this segment is 36 feet wide. And it's just this great big monster roadway. And in consideration, the new part that we just did in the last year or two on easterly Hazley is 28 feet wide. And if any of you have driven that, it's very comfortable drive, very nice that way. So there is 8 additional feet of pavement on this existing segment that is just costing us money if we put down another 36-foot wide segment and add additional 8 feet. So then with very little effort, that's where the addition can come in for the sidewalk and consideration of the bike lane. It will create the situation currently pedestrians walk on the roadway throughout this segment. There are very few driveways. So again, it is just a big, massive pavement section through there. So that will be considered as part of the design, kind of a road diet, it can be considered or called. The segment is 3,900 feet long that will be designed and then come back for construction award after bidding. And Kimley Horn was chosen off of the on-call contracts that were solicited in the previous year, chosen for that. Design of the project is scheduled to be completed within 6 months of the notice to proceed, with completion contemplated for March of 22. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Craig. Questions, comments from the council? Councilman Blair.
Can we ask them to think outside of the box and separate curb, sidewalk from gutter? In other words, put the bike lane behind the gutter? Or how are you going to do that? I mean, having a separation.
That's something we can definitely consider and bring up as part of the design.
I think, when you start talking about moving bikes and people off the main road, and if we have that much room out there, let's think about doing that. I mean, there's towns all over. Everybody wants to compare who we are to everybody else. Well, go to Austin, Texas, and you'll find those things removed all the time from the main road surface where cars and bikes don't get along. Let's just face it. If we're going to redesign the road, let's look at doing something that we need to do for the public.
So your consideration would be roadway, pavement, sidewalk, and then bike.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilman Rursing.
Thank you. Several years ago, on the Senator Highway and to Valley Ranch Circle, there was the road construction project, and I believe it was plagued with delays and problems. Do you have any recollection about that? I just remember residents telling me how long it took, and it became a safety issue because there weren't 2 ways out of the neighborhoods.
What road? I'm sorry, what road did you mention?
The Senator Highway and into Valley Ranch Circle. It was done previously. There was something going on, and it took forever it was blocked off there at Senator Highway.
Actually, yeah, and actually, no, it was not delayed. The project overall has taken a long time because there was the pump station segment of it, the pipeline and roadway segment, and then the tank segment. So actually, the roadway and the pipeline was completed, and it's coming to the end of its 2-year warranty, and the tank warranty is just starting because it took that long. They did the roadway and the pipeline first, so that was online, serving everyone. Then with delays in electrical equipment for the pump station, that took so much longer. It had to be completed before the tank could start. So is the domino.
So it was a lot more complicated project than this one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Much more complicated.
Other questions, comments from the council? Public comment? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2022-055.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Pass the 7-0.
The item we've been waiting for all day. Item G, please.
Approval of city contract number 2022-059 for the purchase of a self-contained roll-off compactor.
Hello again, Mayor, Council, Craig Dosseth, Public Works. So if it's all right, I'll close the day out with you. So, yes, this item is consideration of purchase of a 34 cubic yard self-contained roll-off compactor to be located in the Whiskey Row Alley. So in 2005, solid waste changed out from regular dumpsters to compacting dumpsters in the alley. That was to address additional demand, additional use and need there, and then reduce the amount of trips that the trucks had to take into the alley. So now we progress forward from 2005 to 21, and our compactors are no longer keeping up. During the winter months, we run a 6-day-a-week cycle in there, and then from May through October, we run 7 days a week that we service both trash dumpsters and a single recycle dumpster. They are 6-yard compacting dumpsters in there currently. So we would replace one of those with this new 34-yard roll-off in order to increase the capacity there. We feel and believe that can help significantly with trash that ends up laying in the alleys in front of the existing dumpsters, next to them, such, in order to keep it in better condition. Also, one of the benefits that comes with this, right now, the dumpsters that are in there, it's fairly high. And you get some of the employees that are bringing bags out from the businesses, and they have a really hard time getting it into the dumpsters. They get tore open, bags, things like that, and or if they can't lift it, it sits there. The roll-off unit will be able to have a cart tipper on it. So then we'll be able to supply a normal residential cart to the businesses. So then it will provide them the ability that they don't have to take every bag out when they need it. They can fill up their cart, roll it out to the dumpster, hook it onto the tipper, and then it will dump it for them. Or if they don't choose to use those, they can just put the bags into the compacting area of the roll-off as well. So we feel that will have the ability to keep the alley cleaner. Unfortunately, you see streaks where bags are dragged from businesses out to the dumpsters. And we think that the carts can eliminate that, debris and or that, mess that we currently end up with in there as well. So we would replace one of the existing compacting dumpster with the compacting roll-off. And so then that increases the total yardage capacity that we're able to serve in there, and also then reduce the number of trips through the area. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Craig. Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I assume this will be pretty high profile, being in the Whiskey Row Alley. Are there any color options to choose from for this thing?
There actually are, and one of the things that was contemplated, it can be brought into as a color and or with a paint material that it would have the ability to be a mural added to it. We wondered about that, but right now we don't have an idea about that. So if there is an idea from all of you, we'd be happy to entertain it. It won't change what we order from the company per se. So that could be an option.
What colors are available?
There's a magnitude of a number of colors.
I think that's something we should explore instead of getting some boring gray thing.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. I know that the Prescott Downtown Partnership is also looking at some potential mural projects in that alley by making like utility boxes look nicer. And so this could be part of their project that they're already looking at. Since we own it, we could partner with them to allow an artist to paint it. So that's kind of in the works, because there are a lot of utility things back there, but it's also a pretty, popular walking area. So
nice.
Councilman Good?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I usually drive through that Whiskey Row alley at least a couple of times a week. And even though I've had a lot of problems with people that are long-term parking in fire lanes, that's not the primary issue, at least for this discussion. It's trying to get the cleanup of all that debris and trash that's left there with grease and everything else. I'm really surprised that we haven't had a slip and fall problem so far. So I think this is probably worthy of upgrading this, because I've literally seen guys hauling those black trash bags and dragging them on the ground, and then debris coming out of the bottom. So this potentially could solve that problem and make the Whiskey Row alley a little safer and more appropriate for its intended use. So I'll support this.
Other comments? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2022-059.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Our quote comes to us today from Denzel Washington. You'll never be criticized by someone who is doing more than you. You'll always be criticized by someone doing less. Remember that. This meeting is adjourned.